Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Howdy, guys.
So tonight we are doing a trilogy, if you will. It's been a while since we did a trilogy.
Whoa, 3 of them.
Yes, well, that's what a trilogy is.
Oh, well, there you go then.
Because lately a lot of people continue to think, oh, why stop at a trilogy and make it into an entire film series?
Like Rocky 2073 or something, you know.
Or the whole Star Wars thing, like spin-offs, reboots, and whatever.
Sideways boots and sequels and side stories.
Yes.
But however,
how can you keep track? I don't know.
When you run out of steam, it's about time you put the train back into the what do you call it? The garage.
Yes. So this movie or movies is called The Reanimator. And the first one was done by Stuart Gordon, directed.
Well, it's produced by Brian Usner and directed by Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner.
And the other two, The Bride of the Reanimator and The Beyond Reanimator, were done by Brian Usner.
He produced and directed. So there you go.
Yes. So that's got out the directs out of the way.
Well, there you go. Then. Now, the idea of the Reanimator is based on a H.P. Lovecraft short story, which has similarities to the Frankenstein story. So yeah.
Well, considering the fact, guys, where do you think H.P. Lovecraft came from?
His mother had him in a hospital.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, he started off as a writer, just writing in his studio, and he probably used influences like Frankenstein or the other supernatural-related books
all
here
those
and
good
there.
Wholesome books.
So he created his own line of sci-fi, horror, and thriller-type crime stories.
He was a very, 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 very good short story writer.
And I wouldn't be surprised some of his stories may have influenced the Twilight Zone to an extent.
I think so.
In my opinion.
And they would have possibly even influenced guys like our latter-day writers like your Stephen Kings and stuff who might have grown up on reading Lovecraft novels and stuff.
Well, it's considering the fact that most of Stephen King's works or his short stories, whatever, they got accepted into writing competitions, and one of them would have been one of those Lovecraft type of writing competitions.
Exactly.
Where the best writers would be, acknowledged.
Stuff like that. Now, okay, we've got 3 movies now. We won't waffle too much. So, what we'll do, I'll introduce the stars, producers, and directors on each one as we go through, and Sarah will go through the stories a bit, and then we'll pop on to the next one. Now, the first movie, Reanimator, the first one which started all, was done in 1985. Now, these are all supposed to be comedy horrors, the 3 movies.
Yes.
Okay. So, back in 1985, Reanimator was made. Like I said before, it was produced by Brian Usner, directed by Stuart Gordon. Look, I won't go through all the stars, but just 2 of them mainly, Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott. Jeffrey Combs plays, obviously, the Herbert West weird guy. Right, now, dollars and cents. Okay, I like dollars and cents. Budget was about at least 900,000, but maybe over $1 million. Okay, but a box office at $2 million. But who knows what it did on home media?
Exactly. So we cannot be sure.
Actually, I'll do a comparison while I'm here. I'll talk about the other stuff later. The second movie came through at a budget of $2.5 million. I don't know what it did at the box office. So they put more money into it. Hopefully it made more money for them. And the last movie, Beyond Reanimator, they had a budget of $3 million. Again, don't know what happened with it. I think that those second 2 movies might have gone through, home media directly. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, it matters not.
It matters not, guys.
But anyway, still, I think it made money. A modest profit maybe, but still made a profit, I think.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to tell the story of the first one?
Yes, you got it. So the story opens where, Herbert West, he is at a sort of a university in, I think it's in Switzerland or Germany, I'm not sure.
Zurich.
Yeah, and he gets disrupted by a nurse who sees the doctor being dead but then reanimated. But for some reason, it's not worked.
Didn't work very well, no.
And of course, we cut to the title card and the credits, which the music score is similar to the Psycho theme, if you will, wouldn't you say? There was a bit of a
reminiscent, not the same, but
similarly.
reminiscent of it. Yeah.
I like to think that they went for that kind of. It kind of had that good look, and I like the fact that every shot had a bit of a layer of, of doctor text or, on it, like sort of anthology sort of stuff, or the study of human body organs.
Anatomy.
Anatomy, sorry.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, all textbook pictures and photos of the brain, the organs, the things like that. Anyway, we then cross over to another university, I don't know where, but which is...
he went to America.
Yeah.
To Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts.
Where he meets Daniel Kane, a promising doctor student who hopes to become a doctor. Of course, his patient died on the operating table. Not died. He died, obviously. He couldn't bring him back to life, sadly enough, because after a few minutes of his brain being dead, you cannot bring him back after that.
I've worked with people like that too.
Herbert West, he arrives there and he starts attending the lectures, and he dislikes one of the teachers who thinks he's very superior and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, those,
Yeah. And of course, he's very superior. He also has a thing for his superiors, the headmaster's daughter, obviously, who's very cute and very pretty, but she's actually engaged to Daniel Kane, obviously, And of course, Daniel Kane gets a roommate, Herbert West as his roommate, and he witnessed him trying to bring his cat back to life. Of course, it was unsuccessfully. Something about the fact it was...
Been dead too long, maybe.
Been dead too long because it was in the fridge.
And cats don't have brains anyway.
Anyway, they continue their experimenting taking cadavers from the morgue at the hospital, if you will, and they start taking them while under the not so watchful eyes of the security guard, who turns out to be the most useless of people in this movie. Would you say?
Quite possibly, yes.
Because he just sits there reading a dirty magazine, you know what I mean. You know the type of person I'm sort of referring to in these movies. The very useless and lazy brain type of people. Anyway, so they eventually continue their experiments, but soon enough, that particular doctor who wants Herbert and Kane dropped from school because he doesn't want Kane to interfere with his liking of the Undine's daughter, obviously, and he wants him dropped.
Nice.
Of course, he finds out about Herbert West's new formula that brings people to life, and he wants it. He needs it. He wants to become the founder of it. Of course, Herbert will not give up the formula for anything. So he kind of decapitates and kills the professor, and he brings his head back to life. I guess he wanted to see if it could work on parts.
Bits and pieces. Yeah.
Which he does do in the later movie, obviously.
Jump the gun.
Of course, it does give him a little bit more thinking power. It seems like the rest of their experiment turn out to be... Seriously, they can move around, but their brains are not functioning up here.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time they don't have any brain smarts. But it turns out the professor, he turns out to be one of the lucky few to manage to actually be functioning. And his other half, his legs and arms and his torso, seem to be still active even if it's not injected.
Yeah, that's sort of funny.
It's funny.
But weird.
But later on in the story, even was a deleted scene that was never shown where it indicates that he has a psychic ability to control minds.
It just is a given.
But anyway, they don't explain it. So they allow his body, the separate being, to become his his arms and legs and his tool, if you will, to allow him to continue where West, started, obviously. So he knocks off West, and he and his body continues to takes the serum that West created and starts injecting it into other cadavers and dead bodies. And of course, later on, we find he abducts the dean's daughter, and of course, he tries to seduce her or sexually assault her, if that's the best word. Kane and Herbert, they eventually arrive to save the day, and of course, West is thinks that she's is a silly teen, blah blah blah, and mocks the dean for who's going to believe a talking head? Go to a sideshow, blah blah blah. Of course, these dead bodies start coming to life, and of course they try to fight their way out. Of course, things go ahead, no pun intended, and soon enough, Molly, and I think it's his girlfriend's named Molly. I'm not sure.
I can't remember now.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it matters not.
It matters not at this point. Anyway.
Megan.
Megan, okay. They try to escape through an elevator, but fortunately one of the Zeds attacks and kills Megan. And, of course, Kane tries to take her to the operating room and revive her, but too late. So he takes the serum that West makes and injects it in her, and then we sort of fade out, credits and all that, and we hear her scream, obviously, indicating that she may have come back, but by the second movie...
And we're ready for the sequel.
The second movie comes along, and we find out that Meg is no longer in the picture, meaning she may have been reanimated, but still is dead, and because we later find out that her remains... The only thing that remains is her heart, which could mean she got either torn apart by the other zombies, or
occupational hazard.
Or maybe who knows what happened? We don't know. Anyway, in the next movie we see.
Wait a minute. Now I'll step up.
Okay, step up your game, Mike.
Yeah.
The next one is called The Bride of Reanimator.
Which I was going to say a couple of things. We still have Jeffrey Combs and Bruce Abbott in this movie. They're both in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, Jeffrey Combs in the 3 movies.
Yes, he makes his appearance in all 3 because he makes the best psychotic
something
doctor.
About him. He comes over as just a nice little student who's a bit bent, and he looks bent.
Yeah, and his behaviour's bent.
Not weird, creepy, just. You're like a Norman Bates, I'm a really nice guy, but there's something dark behind me,
Yeah, and like most geniuses, he cares about the work, not doesn't let
social things go.
Little things like love get in the way. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I don't like too much, because obviously, I mentioned stuff before, the profit margins and whatever, and who produced and directed, but yeah, don't know. I think this one might have gone to it might have gone straight to home media. It's wide. So I'm just looking for the notes here.
Let's see.
Just give me a second. Special effects. Because no mention box office here, so it's probably going straight to I would say. Anyway, carry on. Go on the story.
Anyway, the next one is called The Bride of Reanimator, which I mentioned they got from
Bride of
Frankenstein, which kind of works when you think about this one. So, in this one, Herbert and Kane...
This is 1990, this one.
Yeah, and they're working in a third world country where they're still during a war.
A Peruvian civil war. Here you go.
Yeah, and here they are they're still using the serum for their illegal experiments. And of course, during one of their experiments, they decide to return to America to continue their work over there, obviously. And Herbert comes up with their new home, their new digs, is actually near a cemetery. What better place?
Bugger, handy, spare parts.
Yes. And there's even a mausoleum next door that they use to dump
leftovers.
Leftovers. As you soon see. Anyway, so they're back at... They're working at the hospital, and of course one of the patients, a female, is dying of a disease or... and something like that. I think it's either cancer or something.
Well, some bad disease. Yeah.
Anyway.
They don't actually say, but she hasn't got much time to live. Yeah.
Anyway, Herbert works out a new way of using the serum by bringing little dead bits of tissue together,
like
and
a hand or a foot,
and bringing it to life, just individually. Parts, like if it was a foot, and it would naturally move and start having a life of its own.
I got a hemorrhoid like that.
Funny, haha.
Oh,
Anyway, he then comes up with a solution
anyway.
of bringing back a person, parts to life, and uses Meg's heart as a bit of an engine, if that's a term.
Yeah, I think so. Pretty much. Yeah.
And thinks that all they need is parts, and so they do it like a Frankenstein, approach to this one.
Bit here,
which
bit there,
probably works because it makes a little sense why they called this bride a Reanimator, not Bride of Frankenstein or something like that. But it sounds to work when you think about it, using an old reference from the old 1950s or 1930s, where back then that would have been where the term came from, wouldn't you say?
Quite possibly.
From all its franchises.
I would say yes.
Anyway, which is as funny as it turns out that a lot of people have used that particular, term often, like the Bride of Chucky, again, another sort of supernatural related horror movie. And I think a lot of other movies have used that term, here and there in movies. But those two are the most popular of the two that use that term, and it refers back to Frankenstein. What better way to reference a classic? Anyway, so they start gathering parts, but along the way, a detective starts sniffing around.
Sniffy.
Yeah, and he was sort of one of the reanimated victims of Herbert West, was also married to the detective. But it turns out there's a bit of a backstory to the detective beating up his wife, and that's why her body was dead in the first place.
Exactly.
And Herbert West even broaches that subject, and has him killed when they were having a skirmish. And of course he brings his body back to life. I don't know why they did that. It was just stupid when you think about it, because he's already a loose cannon type of person. And I don't know why he brings back people who piss him off or get him angry, unless he needs spare parts or body parts. I don't know. But I don't think he was any use. Anyway, so also Kane develops a new love interest, a woman who worked as a sort of a medic when they were in that war, that war that they
Peruvian Civil War.
Yeah, they become romantically interested in one another, and then she finds out about what they're up to, and she's thinking of leaving him, obviously, and of course. Even Kane is starting to have second thoughts about leaving Herbert and start, moving on, obviously, with his life. But then West brings him up the fact that about Meg and using the heart and using their dead patient, the girl that's dying, obviously, as the final pieces to their Frankenstein project, if that's a word.
Close enough. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, also. Another person comes into the picture, the head of the dead doctor from the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
He comes back and he coaxes a doctor in the police department to help him get the reagent into him, obviously. And of course, he tells him to, get him to... He also uses the formula and applies it to a dead bat, obviously, and didn't know what.
Yeah, didn't he have his head attached to the bat somehow or other?
He gets the doctor to sew the bat wings onto his head.
Yeah.
And later on, he leaves him in the freezer to freeze out.
Whatever.
Anyway, he makes a plan to take revenge on Herbert West and Dr. Kane, obviously. So he sends his head to the including and he also brings along those other dead zombies that were confined to a mental institute, if that's a term, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because most of them they're not all brains type zombies. They're just very, mentally unstable. That's the term.
Easily controlled. That's good.
Anyway, they're very dangerous. Anyway, soon enough, he got them under control and because of his mental power. And so he was able to send his head to Herbert and then, starts tormenting him all the time. And of course, they do eventually reanimate the girl, the Frankenstein monster they developed, and with the reagent. And soon enough, she's revived, and of course, she's not like the others, obviously. But she's still a little shaken up by the fact she's brought back to life. How would you feel if you were brought back to life, and feel rather freaked out about it?
No, would be different.
Kane's new girlfriend appears and tells Kane to reject her because clearly this is not Meg. She has a heart, but she's still a different person.
It is. Yeah.
Anyway, so he rejects her, saying he does not want her body, and eventually she starts tearing at her limbs and even presents Kane Meg's heart.
And it doesn't fall apart or something?
Yeah, she falls apart.
She just, like all females, they just go to pieces.
Yeah. So while Herbert is having a hard time with the head, obviously, of Doctor, the other body parts from that behind the wall of their basement, which is where the mausoleum.
The whole hole in the wall goes to the mausoleum, and that's not a secure place because nobody goes in there.
Yeah, and soon enough, the dead body parts start creating havoc inside
and what happens is the mausoleum starts to come down,
including the basement and everything. So soon enough, Kane and his lady friend were able to get out alive.
And Hill, the Batman,
he had the last laugh by getting himself crushed, and Meg's heart stops beating. And that's the end of the second movie.
Now, number 3, Beyond Reanimator. That was made in 2003.
Oh yeah, I should mention, guys, before we go on, I forgot to mention the dates for both Reanimator movies. One was done in 1985, and the other one was released in 1990. Yeah.
And I've already said that already.
I know, but I forgot, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Beyond Reanimator was done in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, carrying on the nice storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what?
What?
Jeffrey Combs is in it.
No duh.
Duh.
Of course, Daniel Kane's not returned in this one, obviously. But there's an interesting story to his backstory in that one,
Doesn't matter. It's supposed to be 13 years later anyway.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But I just mean, like, in this one...
And he's been in jail for 13 years.
I know, just mean that he's probably still alive, technically, I'm saying.
No. Herbert West has been in jail for 13 years for his little crimes, different things, naughty things, yada, yada, yada. So the other guy's got on for his life.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But his interesting story is that he pretty much, at the trial, told the court what he did, and therefore West gets his just deserved by going into jail for his crimes of tampering with,
things he shouldn't.
Anyway. So, anyway, what else is there?
Not a lot. I mentioned all this stuff here. Brian Usner, blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
blah.
I think this went directly to home media too.
Yeah, I'd say it was. There's nothing about the box office here. It doesn't actually say, but I think it's implied. Yeah.
If it's not on box office details,
Sky Channel,
it doesn't exist.
Sci-Fi Channel, different things. So I'd say it's going probably straight to TV.
If it's not in the cinemas, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, they don't say it here, but I think Sky Channel's the last one. I mean, it's Sky-Fi Channel, and Sky-Fi Channel's this one as well. So it's probably gone straight to home media. It's like through televisions and streaming and DVDs and crap and stuff and everything.
Yeah, they also made a musical video for beyond Reanimator, obviously, which is not too bad if you like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll discuss that movie. It takes place after, well, in the opening scene, you see a little boy who's living next door, not too far from Wes Craven's last remaining home, obviously.
Wes Craven?
Yeah. I mean, not Wes Craven. I mean, Herbert West. My bad.
Wes
My
Craven.
bad.
He's in it too, is he?
No. But I wouldn't be surprised if he produced it. Anyway, so our new person who comes as assistant, his name is, let me see here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking over Mike's notes here. So his name is Howard Phillips, obviously, and in that one, he witnessed his dead sister's death, obviously, by one of the zombies. And here, this is where Herbert West gets arrested for his crimes against nature, and he left behind one of his syringes with the serum inside it to dear old Howard, obviously. Then when he was, 13 years later, I think it was, which the boy would have grown up and he would have been, either 25 or
Probably mid-20s. Just say mid-20s, okay?
Or whatever.
Get through it.
Anyway, he comes to work at this prison in somewhere, obviously in America, where Herbert West resides or lives in, obviously.
He's an inmate. Yeah.
Here, the Howard Phillips is now graduated as a doctor, and he's now the prison doctor. He could have had any job in the world, but he went for this one.
They're very nice. Give back to the community.
Yeah, that's what you think. And he also meets the warden, who is a terrible brute, jerk, whatever, if you will. And everyone dislikes him. Anyway, soon enough, so Howard becomes Herbert West's new assistant, if you will, and he starts seeing potential help in him to continue his work. He also has a new theory, a new way of making the serum and possible lightning in a bottle to make the person's manage to get back to life, obviously. Not just using the serum, but using a special device that will give your body the electric current it needs to function up in the brain, obviously, and function like... Herbert gives it a much more better example of what it is. I think it's more the life force behind a dead body. Go on.
So you're struggling here, groping words. Okay. Now... Dr. West, Herbert, discovers NPE. What a great abbreviation. Nanoplasmic energy. An energy that can be extracted from the brain of a living organism through an electrocution-like process to be stored in a capsule resembling a small light bulb. There you go. That sound pretty good?
Yeah, so in other words, it doesn't just capture the brain thingy-wing, but I think it carries the life force, even though Herbert gives off a little bit more of a technical example, like here, obviously, to explain it. Anyway, they start experimenting on a rodent which was one of the inmates' pets, I think, and he brings and he gives it back to the prisoner, obviously, and the prisoner finally left Herbert alone.
But the problem is the rat doesn't like his owner anymore. And what happened? I'll probably explain what happened. See, the dead creature, its life force has gone, and he's taken the life force out of another creature and put into the dead one, which means it's not the old one's mind and everything. The life force came back; it's the one he's taken it from. So you've pretty much taken the life force out of a body and putting it into the one you want to reanimate, but it's not going to be the one you want to reanimate. It's going to be the one you took the stuff from.
Yeah, anyway.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Meanwhile, there is also another person in the picture, a journalist lady, who wants to write up a story, I guess, on Herbert West. Like, So she gets the warden to try to get her to...
He's a sleazebag, isn't
which
he?
is who has the total perv on her, obviously.
Oh, he's a dirtbag. He's horrible
He's
sleazebag.
dirty,
Yeah.
he's a jerk.
Nasty man.
And he could see through her that what she's doing, and he knows about her affair with Howard, obviously. And so he kind of beats her up, and then Herbert comes up with the idea of bringing her back to life using another brat's essence, if you will. But Howard rejects this idea, thinking he doesn't want his lady love to start acting like a rodent. Then the warden gets finds out about this, and he tries to, but luckily enough, they both beat him up, and they steal his essence. And she soon gets back to life, and Herbert decides to replace the warden's essence with a rodent. And he turns into a more rodent, like the rodent.
He bums it. He's a dirty rat.
Yeah, that's probably the best term. Anyway, soon enough, some more weird stuff starts happening where she starts freaking out. She starts developing a split personality, even though we've already established the fact this is not her brain essence that's inside her, obviously. So there's a bit of a joint custody in that body of hers. Anyway, soon, but the other guy who's the warden, who's now the rodent, he starts getting, killing the inmates and causing trouble. And this causes, there was a bit of a prison break, well, not prison break, it's more like a prison riot happening, of course, causing the prisoners to act up, and causes the guards to quickly try to go into lockdown as much as they can. Of course, things go ahead where the warden steals the syringes and starts injecting it to the dead prisoners, the ones he encounters along the way. He hangs them and he injects them, obviously. And he also injects another one of his troops after he beats them, obviously. Anyway, Howard tries to find his love interest, the journalist, but soon enough she starts, develop the personality starting to take over, obviously. And of course, when she's not being controlled by that bad side of her, she begs Howard to put her out of her misery, obviously.
Kill me now, please.
Yeah. And meanwhile, while this is happening, Herbert goes in search of his syringes, and of course he sees one inmate who decides to go on a trip with his syringes. He's a bit of a drug addict.
He thinks he's going to get a buzz out of it. Yeah.
He does get a buzz out several times, and soon enough his body is starting to looking
really weird.
And even in his weird bloody state, he still begs for a syringe or two. But I think Herbert says, "I think you had enough." It's a bit hilarious just seeing the body still. Even after it's decaying and looking gross, he's still a little alive, if you could believe it. Anyway, soon enough, Howard was able to put his girlfriend out of her misery by chopping her head off. And
However, there's a problem here.
What's that?
The head stays alive.
Oh, yes. Anyway, Herbert then takes Howard's ID, and he pretends to be a fake orderly or doctor leaving the
So he sneaks
prison.
out of the prison
And
when the riot squad come in there, whatever you call them. Yeah.
And Howard is placed into custody while the head starts opening its eyes and chuckling, and Howard is losing it, obviously. And
his head's having a nice laugh about it. And,
Then we watch Herbert West walking off, probably continuing his research in. We don't know because there's no other movie that came after this.
Well, nothing ever happened. So It leaves the mind to wander.
But it's no surprise he will continue his research till he figured out the possible way of bringing a person back to life
Safely.
I think that even his new theory about using the lightning in the bottle didn't work. He even says to himself, it was just a theory, shrugged it off. Like, no big deal.
Poo happens. Yeah. They bury them.
Technically, Herbert West doesn't he doesn't care about whether he gets it wrong the first time or whether or not. Maybe he does care a bit, but I think more or less he knows that most of the time he's going to get several dozen failures before he actually gets one right. Anyway, so that's the Reanimator, the trilogy so far. I think there was one other one that came out, but there was a remake, obviously.
Yeah, there was a remake. What do you call it? It wasn't a remake. It was a film called Herbert West Reanimator, done in 2017, which was done in another country like Italy or somewhere.
Italy, one of those Italian places.
That was just their version on the H.P. Lovecraft story. So, what can I say? Not a lot. Now, the reviews for the 3 movies, they haven't been glowing recommendations, but haven't been bad ones either. So they're sort of in the middle. I won't go for all. They've got 3 movies here. So generally speaking, it's been middle to good in the grading from the reviews. So
there is something promising about watching Reanimator. Is all I can say. I mean, I kind of like a movie where it just twists the boundaries of logic and gives out it just gives you a different sense of a fantasy reality.
Exactly.
Unlike other movies where they just naturally do it like a zombie movie, obviously. But in this one, it twists the story and gives you a different version of what may happen if you start messing with things you don't understand.
Well, look what happened to Dr. Frankenstein. He's could have walked down to the castle or or whatever was the windmill or whatever
story, whatever original story the Frankenstein story is.
He just walked out. See you later. I'm going for a walk out in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, I do think Reanimator is pretty interesting, and I like the Jeffrey Combs
right.
does a great, great attempt at making Herbert West come to life.
He comes over just like an ordinary sort of guy who's a bit different. A bit different, a bit more focused on his work and stuff. Yeah.
And he doesn't care about whether or not he gets it right the first time.
He does well, Carries the role good. Now, okay. I can't think of anything I'm going to say about this. It's a good trilogy to watch. I got no problems with it.
I did find out when they did the first Reanimator, the Stuart Gordon took a special tour of a morgue or a funeral home of where the cast got to experience dead cadavers in their that people that. Dead cadavers, obviously, so they can get a feel of what to expect in this production. And of course,
not that they really use dead bodies, but they gave them the idea of what the horror of it.
And of course, most of the meats and the body parts, the meaty stuff you may have seen in Reanimator is mostly stuff he got from the meat shops and stuff like. He actually used there was a scene where when they were throwing the dead doctor's head in one scene, they actually used a piece of some raw meat for that scene, and of course they plastered a bunch of fake hair to it to make it look gross and stuff.
Yeah, you go then. Anyway, what I was going to say is blah reviews, yada yada yada. They're a good watch. Not top of the pile, but they are a good watch. The whole 3 of them now. Yeah,
one day I would like to actually read the book Reanimator. That was by.
I have it in my collection.
I mean, yeah, but I would like it if it was a printed out book of it.
Old fashioned old.
Because I prefer reading a book. I mean, it's easy to read it on the screen, but But
I can print it off then.
But you can't
PDF
really put a bookmark in it. Maybe you can, obviously, put a book
if you're using a reader like Calibray or something, you use an e-book, and you say, earmark it.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, guys. I do that. I do read things online a bit, but I prefer a hands-on book.
I still like a bit of paper in my hand too.
Because then you can just look at it, and when your eyes are not too tired or worn out, then you can put the book down and then wait until another day to read it again.
So when I was a young guy, I used to go to little second-hand bookstores and buy a lot of second-hand books. And then if I read them and I didn't want to keep them anymore, I'd go back to the second-hand bookshop and they'd give me a credit or give me some money for them and go towards my next books. So, it worked pretty good. Anyway, what I was going to say... I said blah, 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 and they're a good watch. I was going to roll into, I would like to grade these. What do you think, Sarah?
Okay, let's grade these now.
Should
we grade them separately or as a bit of a trilogy?
Look, honestly, as a trilogy, because they are sort of, even though they're standalone movies, they all have the same guy, and they do carry on from each other the same way Star Wars is a continuing story and stuff. So I would rather do it holistically. How's that?
Okay,
that's good,
holistically. That's a good
so
word.
As a franchise, I'm going to give it 8.5, 9, 8, 8.5. Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 10.5 out of 10 myself, because I like the story and I like the fact that it does give off some interesting vibes for me. I mean, they get to the root of the story instead of just drag on. 2 hours later, we're done. Blah blah blah.
No, it moves. They move along quite nicely. If you like to, if you don't get too bored.
Because these movies are like 1 hour and 30 minutes. I think
they're
long,
usually 90 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, unlike nowadays where people would make a 2-hour movie and never consider.
See, back in the early days of filmmaking, about an hour and 10 minutes was pretty good movie, like an old Charlie Chan, Mr. Wong's, those old film noir sort of thingies back in those days. And then later on, an hour and a half, and they add another 20 minutes onto it and made it a little bit longer. And then they got up to about 2 hours, and 2.5 hours, and 3 hours, and God only knows where it's going to end, So who knows? Anyway, so it was great. Where do you get it? Well, I'm glad you asked, Sarah. Now, before I say anything, okay, right. Warning, danger, Will Robinson. Okay, there is another film we mentioned a few moments ago, Herbert West Reanimator, 2017. I think it's Italian, Spanish, something or other.
Yeah, we've mentioned that.
Not got nothing to do with this trilogy. Don't download it unless you want to see it. But it's based on the same H.P. Lovecraft film book. Now, eBay has them for sale. Amazon has them for rent and for sale. And also, if you're going there shopping, especially for the older ones, be careful of VHS tapes. Because you may end up buying one. If you ever play it, it's very embarrassing.
Yeah. Another thing, guys, if you are really keen about not really getting it on Amazon or eBay, you can actually just go on YouTube and just hire it or buy it there. As a bit of a, in case you want to cut out the middleman and want to get it from
you still have to pay for YouTube.
You still have to pay for it, no doubt. But it's there as an alternative in case you don't want to.
Unless you want to find a pirate copy or something rather than there.
If you're looking for a quicker approach instead of just wait for months or weeks on hand to get it.
Oh, I think the rentals you can get it straight away. Yeah. Anyway, hello.
Well, that's what I mean. If you want to check it out before you buy it, sort of thing, instead of wait for months and months instead of. Whatever. And get a good copy, obviously, because sometimes on YouTube... Some
of YouTube ones, some of them are crappy.
Yeah, some of them can be, like, some people who do it on YouTube, they will just stretch the footage as far as I can see.
Some of the 10th generation, it's hard to watch. It's almost unbearable to watch. It's blurry, it's jittery, it's so-and-so, it's blah, blah, it's grainy, or dialogues and the balances out. Or, it's just something... It's just... Or it's compressed so far down it pixelates when you put it on a big screen. It's Yeah, it's really painful to watch them sometimes. I do it sometimes when it's my only resource. However, I prefer not to.
Yes.
Now, we've done that. Okay, I think it's about it, isn't it?
Yeah,
we did
I think
good
so.
for a threesy. Yeah.
So that's the Reanimator. So it's up to you guys to go in and watch the thing, obviously.
Honestly, you probably have seen it.
You probably have.
Depending how old you are. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you're as old as us, then
You
yeah,
have. But
you
yeah,
have.
if you're younger, the first one was done back in 84, was it?
Yeah, 85. I think I would have not been born then. I could have, if it came out probably in 1986, I think I would have been 1 year old.
Yes, and I wouldn't recommend a 1-year-old child watching it for two reasons. Firstly, it wouldn't understand a bloody word was going on. It wouldn't. What's that?
Yeah, and of course the other one that came out, the sequel, obviously, I would have been probably either, I would have been about, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 years of age, I think.
And I still wouldn't recommend it for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
However, 2003, well, you're getting a bit older then.
These were very big back then. Well, I'm not sure if I've never been.
You're about 19 then.
Anyway, so you guys know our thoughts about it, so it's up to you guys to actually sit down and watch the thing. So if you have already watched it and laid out your opinions and said it's crap, then that's your decision.
Well,
or if you have not seen it, then you feel free to actually watch it and lay out your own opinion about it, obviously. Don't listen to your friends. If they say it's crap, don't listen to them.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's it from us, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, as we often enjoyed recording it.
We enjoy doing them, and sometimes we have some spirited conversations before and after them, don't we, darling?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we do.
Anyway, I should mention, guys, we might be getting a new friend that may not appear on this channel, but I'm just going to announce... my friend Augie might be joining us. A puppet I'm getting developed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he may become a person that might appear in some of my videos. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with him as of yet.
Well.
But I just thought I might put it out
What's
there, guys.
What's his name again?
Augie, short for August.
August. Oh. Okay, Augie, whatever. Yeah.
Anyway,
well, I can't wait to meet him.
Her.
Oh, okay. It's her, is it?
Yes, it's a her.
How can you tell? It's a puppet.
It's a puppet.
Okay. You got a dress? You're wearing a dress?
Oh, yes. So
Oh,
she's going to wear a
okay,
skirt. She's going to be a
Well,
gothic-y type puppet.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll have someone to talk to. Anyway, so that's
What's
it.
wrong with me?
Nothing.
Okay.
Anyway, that's it from us, guys. So this is Boys and Ghouls Film Review. This is Sarah Stephenson.
And me, temporarily, unless Augie takes my job.
I doubt it. Anyway, that's it from us, guys. So have a good weekend, guys. So see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.